Rockstar Games, a video game developer who has gained praise for their vast open-world environments and investing stories, as well as notoriety for the many controversies that inevitably spout from their creations.
Problem, and what Tony doesn't apparently know, is that Harvard and Indiana universities have determined that these games are actually processed in an adolescent and in a teen in the part of the brain in which copycatting is likely to occur.
And the adult content in Grand Theft Auto 5 begs the question, do you know what your kids are playing? Eric Fink has much more in tonight's big story.
Ted, there is a very big industry for this type of game. They say, hey, if people want it, we're going to provide it. But many family groups here are outraged. Should they be?
They should be outraged.
Shut up. Rockstar has managed to stay relevant over the years for the great amount of care they take in their projects, rather than go for the typical rush it out of the door before it's finished approach, which, sadly, we are seeing a lot more of with AAA developers. Rockstar take their time and iron out as many imperfections as possible before elegantly pushing their newest game into the market. Many of Rockstar's titles have also had one, if not numerous sequels, creating an even more enriched and deep world within their respected franchises for their player base to get invested in. With sequels, it seems like Rockstar always aims to build off the previous entry rather than just repeat the same formula in order to create a whole new unique experience, while still keeping in line with the original, and not going too overboard with the changes like some developers have done with their franchises. And although this doesn't always work out, Rockstar has proved time and time again that they know what makes a good sequel. However, there's one Rockstar game in particular that is very close to my heart, that has not received the same amount of love when compared to the other, more popular Rockstar properties. It's almost like the neglected child of the family, due to it not being as popular or as successful as its other siblings. For me, this game deserved a sequel years ago, and I feel as though we were all cheated out of another great sequel to add to Rockstar's list. It should be pretty obvious to people which game I'm talking about now. To many, it is a cult classic. A hidden gem to anyone who has had the honour of playing it. That's right, I'm of course talking about the criminally underrated Rockstar Games Presents Table Tennis, a top tier sporting game that puts even the likes of FIFA to shame with its enthralling gameplay and in-depth story. I'm kidding, of course, I'm talking about Bully today, okay? The fact that we have yet to see Rockstar tackle a follow-up to Bully really baffles me, considering the amount of sequels that a certain Rockstar game gets. You know, I'm not trying to complain or sound ungrateful, but it does seem like a certain Rockstar property, which I will not name and shame, is robbing a lot of the resources and attention from an otherwise neglected series. I just feel like Rockstar should, you know, spread the love around a little bit more between their games, rather than just completely smother the ever-living piss out of one of them. Bully has been with me since my early childhood and has never lost an ounce of respect or appreciation. The game isn't perfect by any means, God no. In fact, the game at times feels downright unfinished. However, the atmosphere and the characters just ooze charm and cheese, and you can't help but grin every couple of minutes due to the constant barrage of humour and bizarreness.
They're so beautiful. 3 minutes. What does he think I am, a tramp? Ugh, I hope something important happened. Like he's dead.
This is what I feel sets Bully apart from other Rockstar games such as Red Dead Redemption and GTA, whereas those games bring out emotion in the player through character and plot depth, and include scenarios appropriate for more mature audiences. Bully tries to be as juvenile as possible, which makes a lot of sense due to it being marketed to a slightly younger and more immature demographic, and given its high school setting.
Most suitable candidate I know!
Yeah, so's your mom!
It tries to replicate the feeling of high school in the late 90s and early 2000s in America, of course in an over-the-top fashion with crazed teachers, bloodthirsty bullies, and power-hungry prefects. Its style of humour is very reminiscent of any crude teen comedy popular during the early to mid-2000s, which basically boils down to toilet humour. Not that I'm complaining, obviously, but it does seem like a lot of these jokes were written for 12-year-olds.
Don't forget to wipe!
In Bully, you play as the young Jimmy Hopkins, a 15-year-old boy who questions absolutely everything.
Hey man, what's your problem? What? What? What plan? Socio what? What are you talking about? What?
And has a scowl more potent than that of animated Anakin Skywalker. Jimmy is sent to Bulworth Academy by his mother and stepfather while they go on their honeymoon for a year. Really? A whole year on a honeymoon? Jesus Christ, if that doesn't scream unwanted, I don't know what else does. Jimmy is one of my personal favourite Rockstar protagonists, mainly due to his sarcastic attitude and also the fact that he's quite misunderstood. The title of the game would have you deceived in thinking that Jimmy was a bully in the traditional sense, when in actual fact he is a bully who bullies bullies.
There's always a bigger fish.
He's almost like a vigilante, going to the drastic lengths the school will not. Or cannot, because I'm pretty sure it's illegal for adults to beat up kids. As mentioned earlier, the characters of this game help it stand out, as most of them are so outlandish and ridiculous, every interaction Jimmy has with them feels like it was ripped straight out of an Adult Swim cartoon.
Looking for naughty boys! I mean, I'm looking for naughty boys in the wrong parts of town. What I mean, Hopkins, is that I'm glad to report that in that disgusting store, I did not find one naughty boy.
Any high school stereotype you can think of has been filled by somebody, and now although that may sound quite boring and cliched, it honestly makes the whole experience feel goofy and really enjoyable. Soon after arriving at Bulworth, you are gradually introduced to the many faces you will spend your time with at this friendly and welcoming establishment. Some of which are the teachers and staff present in the school, who are all very, unique? Is that the right word to use? Christ, it's a wonder anyone at the school got a job in the first place. But I guess that's supposed to add to the comedy and the overall strangeness of the game. The school should not even be able to physically exist, but Mr. Crabblesnitch is in such denial of the fact, to the point where when Jimmy calls out all the bullying going on, he shrugs it off, labelling it as
School spirit.
ah yes, beating up a nerd to near death. Now that's what I call school spirit. Another one of my personal favourite characters from Bully's roster is Gary Smith, a young boy who suffers from ADHD and has a burning desire to take over the school. Gary is the first person at Bulworth to extend his hand out to Jimmy and offer friendship, but with friends like Gary, who needs enemies?
This snake.
His love of dictatorship and antagonistic behaviour is hinted at often throughout the story, such as his hatred of Western society, and even his Halloween costume, which resembles a very infamous dictator, but I'm not quite sure which one it resembles exactly. Eventually, in true Rockstar fashion, Gary does betray you, believing you are holding him back. Whoa, slow down. A twist villain? In a Rockstar game? Well, colour me surprised, because I never saw that coming, I can tell you that.
Join the club, we've got jackets.
Gary's not a terrible villain by any means, but he just feels a little underutilised in the story. His moments in the game are great, such as when he purposely tries to get under Jimmy's skin, but he is only really prominent in the first chapter of the game, and there are 4 other chapters within the game. Besides from making very small and minute cameos in chapters 2, 3 and 4, you don't see him again until the end of the game. I mean, I get the approach Rockstar was going for, an evil puppet master working everything from the shadows, but he just feels like a missed opportunity and as a result becomes very forgettable to most players.
Do I know you?
But don't worry, Gary, I'll never forget you. To me, you will always be a top contender for a top 10 underrated villains list on Watch Mojo. When putting Bully into perspective, it feels like a gateway game, almost like an appetizer for anyone new to the Rockstar formula. The foundations that make a Rockstar game, well, a Rockstar game, are present in Bully. An open world setting, side missions, collectibles, all the pieces are here. However, the intensity of some of these things feels turned down slightly when compared to other Rockstar games. Now, some of these choices are more obvious than others. For example, Bully is not as violent as the rest of Rockstar's track list, considering that most of Rockstar's games contain an abundance of drug use and gun violence. It's pretty clear why they decided not to have that aspect of their makeup in this game based in a high school, unless of course, you know, they wanted a shit ton of lawsuits. The aim of the game is to get the different cliques who inhabit the school working for you. How is this achieved? Through sophisticated and friendly discussion, of course, and most definitely not through scare tactics and senseless beatings.
Like you cut, G.
When you first join Bulworth, you're at the bottom of the food chain. Even the rejects take the piss out of poor Jimmy.
Hey, I'm not in the friend zone, right? Boo!
In your journey to take over the school, you must first tame the bullies. preppies, greasers, nerds, the jocks, and then finally the townies. Each chapter gives you a new clique to tame, and you do this by earning their respect, which is done by completing tasks for them, and then eventually, once you have done all the tasks they have asked of you, you have to best their leader in a fight. These boss fights, and I'm using that phrase loosely, are pretty easy and repetitive, as many of the fights just require you to run from the boss and wait for them to tire out so you can just chip away at their health and repeat the process several more times. Another aspect of the gameplay is the classes. The classes. Just as exciting as they are in real life. That's a quick way to turn people away from your game, suggesting there'll be some sort of learning involved. It's like getting excited for a new brain training game. Now these classes aren't mandatory, but some of them are quite beneficial to the player. Some more so than others, as some will reward you with power-ups and upgrades that will help you, and others reward you with hats and shirts. Yay! If you do plan on skipping classes, just be aware that if you are caught by a prefect during lesson time, they will send you to class. The prefects in this game love to destroy your spirit and spoil all the fun. Good thing prefects aren't like that over here in the UK.
I'm sick of you! Get out now!
One aspect I feel as though is lacking severely in the game is the open world side of it. When you hear the phrase open world, what comes to your mind? Perhaps the corrupted streets of San Andreas? Maybe the irradiated wasteland of New Vegas? Maybe even the vast deep landscape of Skyrim? But I can almost guarantee that little to none of you thought of Bulworth Town. And I don't blame you. When comparing Bully's open world to these iconic locations in gaming, it becomes very clear why it hasn't stood the test of time quite like these other open world environments. To put it bluntly, it's a bit, well, dull. The design of Bully's map feels very generic. Nothing on the map really stands out or sticks in your mind after playing the game. The biggest catalyst for this problem, I feel, is that the map is split into 5 sections, but you can't access the entire map straight away. Instead, the sections gradually unlock as you progress through the story mode. This is a problem as it makes the early part of the game feel very restricted. This pretty much forces the player to do the story mode straight away, which kind of puts the free roaming aspect of Bully to the sidelines for the early part of the game. However, what Bully's open world lacks in appearance, it certainly makes up for in content. Like at the Academy, there are many things to keep you entertained in the town of Bulworth. There are many stores for you to browse at your own leisure that offer up many useful things for you to buy. There's even a barber's where you can take Jimmy to get a fresh new trim. Many of the residents residing within Bulworth will offer you tasks to complete for them, which mainly involves finding items around the map they might need, or usually they may also ask you to deliver things for them. Click hideouts are also available for you to take over. These hideouts grant you new save points. You acquire these hideouts by completing the click challenge that comes with each one. Challenge is the wrong word to use, as most of them just require you to beat up 5 members from the respected clique you are trying to take the hideout from. The only one I can safely say is somewhat of a challenge is the nerd hideout, as it requires you to beat Fatty's high score on Consumo, a very repetitive and bordering on the offensive video game cabinet. But even still, the actual challenge is having the patience to beat Fatty's score, as it takes nearly 10 minutes of slowly gaining score to beat Fatty's high score. Not to mention all the obstacles you have to avoid, like the blowfish that will take one of your lives away, and the other sumo wrestlers that will bounce you into fucking next week. Now after beating this challenge, not only do you get the nerd hideout, you are also given the bottle rocket launcher, which would all be well and good, except for the fact that you were given the bottle rocket launcher during the story mode anyway, so what's the point in getting it here? Give me something new to use, you scrawny bastard. Now as expected, there are many collectibles scattered throughout the map, such as baseball cards and rubber bands, but the one type of collectible that actually serves a great purpose are radio parts. Jimmy can use these radio parts to give to the school's homeless squatter to learn new fighting moves. As if the school couldn't get any worse, they also have a violent homeless man living in the school grounds.
Transistor, bring me a transistor, bring me a transistor.
No matter how delusional I may be, I still hold out hope that one day Rockstar will find it in their hearts to give Bully a sequel. GTA stans are still complaining that the 15th billionth GTA game hasn't come out yet. Well, just look how bad I've got it. Look at all the games you've got, and look at just the one I've got.
I'm all alone.
The main reason I feel so robbed by the fact that we've not had a Bully sequel yet is because I feel it's got a lot of potential to continue the story. But then again, a game centred around bullying could never work in today's age, as most of it's done over social media, and that would make for a pretty boring game. What's this? Johnny called his girlfriend a slut? Well, I guess I better cancel him then. I feel like Bully is definitely a product of its time, and that the time to bring out a sequel has almost certainly passed. Considering the increase in political correctness in the world, a lot of the humour in the game definitely hasn't aged well.
Go have some fun in the communal showers. Ooh, I just dropped my soap. Please pick it up for me.
Whereas I see this game aging like fine wine, other people probably see it aging like milk. Despite all of its flaws, I still feel that Bully deserves more love and attention, and I believe Rockstar has the ability to give this game a suitable continuation that will fill this hole in my heart.
Like that's ever gonna happen.